So, good morning from Las Vegas. This is Barbara Kolm again. I have the privilege and pleasure to have Professor Mark Skousen here with me, who is the runner and the owner and the producer of the Freedom Fest. You know, this very important, largest event of freedom-loving people who meet every second year now in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Before it was every year.
Yeah, because after COVID, so now we go to other countries or other cities.
As well.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've had many, many, many wonderful events here.
Yeah.
Many great encounters at this big stage. How many people do you have here?
A couple thousand.
A couple of thousand
Yeah,
every year.
2,000 pretty much every year. Sometimes more, sometimes slightly less, but right around 2,000.
So, but before we go into depth a little bit more, let me introduce Mark. So, Mark is the Presidential Fellow of the Dottie Spolly Endowed Chair of Free Enterprise at Chapman University. He taught economics, business, and finance at Columbia Business School and Columbia University. And of course, he has authored how many books, Mark?
Oh, about 25 books and several on economics, of course, and finance.
Yeah, but you know, you're a lover of the Austrian School of Economics. This is how we met probably 20 years ago or so.
Yeah, I think so. And of course, I've been to Vienna many times. It's just a beautiful city. I love to come there. It's probably too expensive these days, but who knows?
Well, not for U.S. citizens anymore.
okay.
You know, with the
Well, that's
dollar
true.
being
Yeah.
that expensive for us Europeans, so
That's
it
true.
would be
The euro
pretty good.
has.
It would be pretty good for you to
Yeah,
do that.
that's true. That's a good point. It's almost 1-to-1, right?
Well, maybe why don't we produce Freedom Fest in Europe next time?
You know, that has been tried a couple of times. For some reason, people want to come to the U.S. more than to Europe. I don't know why.
Which I understand. The country of the free.
Yeah.
At least it used to be.
And in fact, I'm going to be interviewing Lord Matt Ridley, and he has something in his book on innovation, how the Europeans have really not innovated. They have the same companies that were around 40 years ago. Meanwhile, the U.S. has Google, Amazon, Facebook, all these different companies, Apple and so forth, Microsoft, that really didn't exist 30 or 40 years ago. And so you kind of wonder, what is Europe doing strangling new innovation? And I think it's a serious challenge.
Exactly. And as a matter of fact, I will have my next interview with Matt as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yes, we're doing that. So, but let me go further back, because your life is so interesting. Apart from your wonderful wife, who is producing the Freedom
The film festival, Anthem Film Festival, yeah.
At Freedom Fest, you have wonderful daughters. How many of them?
We have 5 children, 3 girls and 2 boys, and 8 grandchildren.
Wow,
So,
that's
and we've
an accomplishment.
been married for 51 years. So.
Cool. That is, well, I have to give a special compliment to Joanne.
Yes, indeed. Well said.
Well, but, you know, apart from that, so you have been working for government, also for CIA, yes.
CIA.
But you've been working for nonprofits with FEE as well, and you've been a consultant to IBM and a couple of Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah, I have the unique distinction of having worked for the private sector, for the government, the public sector, and the nonprofits, all 3 main areas. And I think it's to my advantage that I've had those experiences, because so many academics who write textbooks don't have that experience in the private sector or even nonprofits. They work for academia, and they have very little real world experience. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, let me come back to one question that I was thinking that, you know, pondering. You wrote an article in 1992 where you said persuasion versus force. And the idea behind the essay is very compelling, because could you explain a little bit about that? I mean, what you keep doing here is you persuade people to love freedom, to come here and celebrate with us and with everybody and learn about. But what is the secret behind that?
There's a kind of a quote, it's become a meme, that the triumph of persuasion over force is the sign of a civilized society. And what that means is the more laws we have to pass, the more we mandate and prohibit, we're squeezing freedom from both sides. One of the reasons I started FreedomFest is because we've all witnessed this, and the economic freedom index is in decline, at least in the United States, perhaps in
Well, not only
in
not
Hong
only
Kong and places
in Europe
like
as
that.
well.
Europe as well.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that mandates, laws should be the last resort, not the first action by government.
Yeah.
So sometimes you do have to have rules and laws that need to be passed, but we should be reluctant to do so. And we should try to persuade people to do the right thing rather than mandate them. It's kind of like working with your children. I have 5 children, and if you mandate everything to them, then what have you accomplished? Who knows what they're going to be like when they're on their own? So you would like to persuade them, have their free will. I mean, are you going to force them to go to church? No, you would like to think, no, church is worth going on your own.
Yes.
Just as an
discover it
example.
and for free.
Yeah.
I mean, and you also you since you mentioned this church, you claim yourself to be of a Christian libertarian.
Right.
And
Yes.
the thing is, Christianity often emphasizes the communal responsibility and not so much individual responsibility. So, where do we draw the line? How would you explain that to our audience?
Well, I think that we do have to have rules and regulations. I like the Adam Smith model. I think it's the best model out there, called the system of natural liberty. And what that is that within the rule of law, the basic rules of the game, you have to have bankruptcy law, and you have to have people be able to go to court, and you have to have rules, just like when you're driving down the road, you need to have signs and lines that tell you to make sure you stay in line. But within that, and within a robust competitive model, Adam Smith emphasized competition, then you want to allow maximum economic and political and religious freedom so people can decide on their own what they want to produce, what they want to charge, how much they want to pay their workers. They need that kind of freedom than constantly passing minimum wage laws, forced union negotiations, rent controls, price controls, telling you what you can produce and what you can't produce. One of the geniuses that has created American exceptionalism is that we have adopted that Adam Smith model. We have maximum freedom within the rule of law. And as a result, you have these new creative products that are really making a difference.
Yeah. In which of your many books would you say you have covered that the best, so that our audience can double check and read and browse a little bit?
The pamphlet Persuasion versus Force can be found on my website, mskousen.com, or you can just write in Persuasion versus Force, and it will pop up. But that's just a little pamphlet. In terms of my system of natural liberty that I've developed with the Adam Smith model, my textbook, Economic Logic, is in its 6th edition, and really emphasizes going through all aspects of economics on how to adopt that Adam Smith model. So I have that as well. And also, I would add that my history of economic thought, the making of modern economics, does make Adam Smith in a system of natural liberty the hero, the heroic figure. And he's left for dead sometimes, attacked by his enemies, and then other times he's resuscitated by his friends, and triumphs in the end.
Well, that's what we all hope for, and this is what we all fight for. So let's take a step back and come back to FreedomFest this year.
Yeah.
Which of your speakers would kind of promote our ideas in the way that you just described them best? Because you have all kinds of younger, older, all different backgrounds,
We
entrepreneurs.
even have some actors like Ice-T and Rob Snyder, and their focus is mainly on free speech, being able to the right to speak what's on your mind, and especially for comedians, that's a problem in that respect. But my two favorite speakers are Matt Ridley from the UK. He's probably the UK's number one public intellectual. And then in the United States, we have Steven Pinker from Harvard, who's, I think, in many ways, the public intellectual number one in the United States. And they're both going to be together in an interview or luncheon with Michael Shermer. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'd like to have a picture sitting in between these two public intellectuals. And I've been reading their books, The Rational Optimist
Yes.
by Matt Ridley.
Yeah.
Also a book, How Innovation Works. He's going to be talking about that, and I'll be interviewing him. And then Steve Pinker has Better Angels of Our Nature. He has Enlightenment Now and other books. And they're both optimists, so I'm wondering to what extent they're going to have a disagreement.
Well, as an Austrian economist, you have to be an optimist. That's it. I mean, this is in the nature of things. We believe in innovation, we believe in creativity, and we believe in solutions that come out of the great individual's minds.
Well, Barbara, I would actually take issue with that. I think most Austrians are pessimistic. If you look at Mises and Hayek, they were quite pessimistic about the future. Now, they went through 2 world wars and the Great Depression, but the Americans, Milton Friedman and George Stigler, were more optimistic about it, free to choose and so forth. And this comes out particularly in the Austrian theory of the business cycle. I agree with you that there should be an optimism there because there is the boom phase, right? So you should be invested in the stock market and real estate and things that are going up in value during that phase. But for some reason, the Austrian economists say, well, it's an artificial boom. It's about to collapse at any time. And so get out of the market. And you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. Let's come back to the Austrians who are optimistic. So maybe it's only my generation who are.
I think so. The older generation was more pessimistic.
Well,
even when Thatcher and Reagan came in, both Mises and Hayek in particular was somewhat pessimistic that anything could be done. And but I'm an optimist. I am Austrian optimist, but I consider myself exceptional, especially in the financial markets. You constantly hear that the market's about to crash and that the prosperity is all artificial.
Those dooms preachers,
and
I
we
think they're
ignore the entrepreneurship, which is what Austrians really like to emphasize. So we need together to really preach this optimism that Matt Ridley and Steven Pinker are focusing on, and others. I mean, Alex Green, he with the Oxford Club, he's very upbeat and optimistic. And the stock market rises a lot more than it falls.
It does,
Yeah, especially in the United States.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you have had a ride this was wonderful over the past years. I mean,
yeah, we've outperformed almost every other market except maybe the Japanese. The Japanese are now, their stock market's
even the
recovered.
German DAX is doing well.
Oh, good,
Despite the fact that Germany's economy is literally down, but the DAX is doing great.
Yeah,
And,
it's
so
really
that's,
amazing. And Milton Friedman used to always say the stock market and the economy are two different things. But in the long term, I would like to think they work together.
Yeah, they mirror each other.
Yeah,
I would say that.
yeah.
Well, I mean, we will discuss that in our panel on the economic outlook as well.
Yes, that's true.
And we'll see how the various aspects from Asia and from Latin America, but also what is happening in Europe. And you have an exciting year ahead of time this year.
What do you mean?
Your elections coming up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, we have a presidential debate at FreedomFest. All the third-party candidates are coming, including RFK Jr. and the Libertarian Party, and even the Socialist Party is coming.
Wow, you have a Socialist Party?
Yeah, the Socialist Party wants to nationalize the 100 top companies in America, and they want to impose a marginal tax rate of 100% on anybody $10 million or more in income. Imagine what that would do to the entrepreneur spirit in the stock market. What a disaster.
That is
interesting to see the response our audience has to the socialists.
Well, we can invite them to come over to Europe and see what is happening there. We have the Communist Party in Austria. in a couple of
Gaining support.
gaining, and we have a communist mayor in Graz. The
That's like
vice
old
mayor.
Red Vienna. Remember
Exactly. Yes.
that?
Well, Vienna never had a communist mayor, but
Well, you had Red Vienna
we still have
back
Red
in
Vienna,
1919 or 1920 or something.
exactly, and we still have Vienna still has a social democrat mayor for generations. It has never changed.
Really?
They haven't had a
Yeah.
conservative one. But let's go back to one thing, and the pro-liberty position seems an anomaly in today's world. Really, I mean, if you speak up and say you're a freedom-loving individual, very libertarian, you want people to choose freely, you want people to speak up. So you said you founded Freedom Fest actually for this reason, that people can speak up and can debate.
Yeah.
Apart from Freedom Fest, because there are many people who cannot join, despite the fact that I would highly recommend to come to this great gathering here
Yeah.
in Las Vegas. Where will we be next year?
Well, that's the big surprise is next year is going to be in Palm Springs, California.
Oh, good.
We're going
Okay.
to California for the first time, probably the last time.
Yeah, maybe.
But
another
Palm
socialist
Springs
country.
it was kind of the Hollywood place where
Yeah.
they would go to write scripts and kind of think open, clear their mind. So our theme is Oasis of Liberty.
Ah,
It will be
okay.
the Oasis of Liberty, and that will actually be June, not July, but June 11th
Okay.
through the 14th. So not quite as hot
Hopefully.
like it is, yeah.
Well, I'll make sure that we'll have our panels again.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
have fun there.
Absolutely.
But so this year's topic is actually Brave New World.
Yes.
It's Aldous Huxley's quote. Why did you pick that specifically?
Well, more and more when we look at cultural change, it's just you're just seeing the wokeism, the transgender behavior, the suppression of free speech, and so forth. Those are a lot of those are themes in Brave New World. I read Huxley's book, and the whole idea of stability and not independent thinking, and everybody thinks alike. And if you don't think alike, you take soma, the drug. And so there's a lot to be said by this. Is also it's looked down upon if you actually have your own children. You're supposed to have children through chemical change and stuff like that. There's some themes there that are really relevant to today's Brave New World, and I am very much concerned about it. So I think the theme was really good. And we're going to actually have a session on the book. We're going to have a book club that will
Excellent.
be reviewing the book, and Joanne, my wife, will be leading it along with Gary Alexander. So it should be pretty interesting. I want to mention one other thing that's really important, and that is the loss of the free trade view, which has always been a very strong view of the Austrian School and classical economics. But both major parties now are protectionist.
Yes.
And everything is about me, America first and all this sort of thing, and let's impose these tariffs. And I think that's a really risky thing. And somebody on CNBC said somebody should start the Free Trade Party, and we would be members of that.
Well, not only you, I think we need that in Europe as well, with all those tariffs, with all those negotiations. We don't have free trade. We have
No.
managed trade.
Yeah.
At best.
Yeah, they call it fair trade.
Yeah,
right?
well, even worse.
Yeah, even worse, yeah.
Yeah.
And fair trade.
Yeah. So we really, and despite the fact, modern technology would allow simple things that producers and consumers from all kinds of backgrounds,
Yeah.
from all kinds, can get together.
I will tell you, the New York Times just had an article about elevators. Elevators cost 6 times more in the United States than in Switzerland.
Yes.
And the reason is because the regulators in the United States have just gone overboard, and organized labor has imposed these incredible expenses for labor for elevators. And it's one of the reasons housing costs
Go up.
and apartments and everything else is so expensive. So this is where Europe has an advantage.
Well,
How about that?
if it were only on elevators,
Oh, yeah.
we would be outperforming the US. Unfortunately, we are not. We
Yeah.
have, our governments we have centrally planned Brussels.
Yes,
And
for sure.
this is really a very big disadvantage for the entire European Union.
But now the UK people are regretting the Brexit.
Well, the
Why
thing
is
is,
that?
well, the thing is that they didn't make anything out of Brexit. They did not use the opportunity that was in front of them.
Yeah.
Instead of building London City 2.0,
Uh-huh.
what Thatcher did back then, when she created the financial hub and the financial center
Yeah.
in the 70s and made London the financial hub of Europe. They didn't do anything. They could have done that, could gotten everything back to London and created a hub, create tax opportunities for foreign direct investment.
And actually,
And
the
they did not.
Conservative Party, by the way, raised taxes.
Yeah.
Tax Freedom Day is June 11th, and it's moved up under the Conservatives.
And this is why they are not there anymore. I mean, they really screwed it.
Yeah.
This wonderful opportunity of having a white screen again, and because we in continental Europe, we are sad that the Brits have left, because they were the voice of reason in the Commission and in the European Parliament, but they were always less regulation, don't do this one size fits all. They were very, very positive when it came to monetary policy. They were very conservative in those fronts. But now this voice is gone. It's all gone, and we have strong French and Germans who are all pro-centralization, and this one size fits all. So you don't have to fear European competition, not even on the elevator sector. But now let's come back to one more thing, because you are a great academic and you have developed various indices, but also how to measure GDP in a different way.
Right.
And I would like you to give us a brief summary on why this is important to look at this important measure from a different perspective.
Yeah, so it's called gross output, GO, which is nice, a positive term, abbreviated term, GO. And what really a lot of people don't realize is GDP, it measures final output only. Yes. And so it ignores all the stages of production that produce the final product. And that's the supply side of the economy, which is so important. That's emphasized by the Austrians and the supply side economists. And the fact that GDP leaves out the supply chain is really quite scary, because so much takes place. The innovations, the new market processes, the new product development and stuff like that is all on the supply side. And it moves differently than the final output. Final output is just one final stage, but you have all these other stages where lots of activity is going on. So GO measures that. They include the supply chain. So when you look at it, it's much more volatile than GDP. It's much more reflective of the business cycle. And it also demonstrates that business is far more important than the consumer. And Say's law is more important than Keynes' law. Supply creates its own demand. Who knew that new product development, that's so important. You don't you don't raise the standard of living unless you're changing the landscape of the goods and services that we produce in our country. And the key to that is we need to encourage entrepreneurship. So that's supply. So measuring the supply chain is really important. It's also a leading indicator of where we're headed in the economy. And frankly, B2B spending has been moribund. It really hasn't been doing much. So it's a danger sign that we may be shifting into a recession right now. So if people go to grossoutput.com, that's the website that I've developed. But our government, we're ahead of the game. The Bureau of Economic Analysis, the BEA, puts out GDP, is using GO and has since 2014. And none of the other countries have followed suit. So I'm really hopeful that they will.
We will help you promote this. Maybe at our Free Market Roadshow tour, we should have you there.
That would be great.
I'd
love to talk about it.
Wonderful. Well, Mark, thank you very much for taking the time. Stay tuned and look up what FreedomFest is and does to all those great people here, helping them understand freedom, promote freedom and liberty. Thank you very much, Mark, for all you do, and Joanne, what Joanne does with her Anthem Film Festival. Thank you.